learn about the superior mesenteric artery. The superior mesenteric artery mainly supplies the jejunum, ileum and the ascending colon up to the right 2/3 of the transverse colon. So it mainly supplies the jejunum, ileum, cecum appendix, the ascending colon up to the right 2/3 of the transverse colon. Now let's talk about the origin. It arises from the abdominal aorta that is behind the body of the pancreas and nearer to its neck and at the level of the L1 vertebrae that is about ½ inch below to the origin of the celiac trunk. So this is the origin of the celiac trunk and it's ½ inch or the 1.2 centimeter below to the origin of the celiac trunk. So it originates from the front of aorta. So this is the superior mesenteric artery that originates at the L1 level of vertebrae. This is the origin. Now let's talk about the course. From its origin, it runs downwards into the right side, passing in front of the uncinate process of the pancreas and then in front of the third part of the duodenum. So this is the third part of the duodenum. And then it enters the root of the mesentery where it runs between the two layers of the mesentery. And then it terminates into the right iliac fossa by anastomosing with a branch of the ileocholic artery. And throughout its course, the superior mesenteric artery is accompanied by the superior mesenteric vein on its right side. So it terminates in the right iliac fossa by the anastomosis that takes place near the ileocholic artery. In this diagram, this is the ileum, the appendix, the cecum. These are the ileal branches and these are the jejunal branches. This is the origin of the inferior mesenteric artery, IMA. This is a branch that is the inferior pancreaticoduodenal artery. This is the middle cholic artery, the right cholic artery, and this is the ileocholic. So now let's discuss the relations. Anteriorly, from above, it is related to the body of the pancreas and the splenic vein. And posteriorly, from above, it is related to the left renal vein, the uncinate process of the pancreas, and the third part of the duodenum. The third part of the duodenum, the inferior vena cava, that is the IVC, and the right ureter, so the posterior relations. Now let's talk about its branches. The superior mesenteric artery gives 5 branches. The first one is the inferior pancreaticoduodenal artery. The second one is the middle cholic. The third branch is the right cholic artery. The fourth branch is the ileocholic artery. And the fifth branch is the jejunal and the ileal branches. All the branches of the superior mesenteric artery arises from the right side except the jejunal and ileal branches which arises from the left side. So these are the jejunal and the ileal branches which arise from the left side. And now let's talk about each and every branch of the superior mesenteric artery. The first branch is the inferior pancreaticoduodenal artery. In this diagram, this is the pancreaticoduodenal artery, and here this is the first branch, that is the inferior pancreaticoduodenal artery. It arises from the right side of the upper border of the horizontal part of the duodenum, and it soon divides into the anterior and the posterior divisions which run in the pancreaticoduodenal groove, and they enter by anastomosing with the anterior and posterior branches of the superior pancreaticoduodenal artery. It anastomoses with the superior pancreaticoduodenal artery. So this inferior pancreaticoduodenal artery is the first branch of the superior mesenteric artery. And the second branch is the middle cholic artery. In this diagram, this is the middle cholic artery. So this middle cholic artery arises from the right side, that is just below to the pancreas. As you can see it here, this middle cholic artery arises just below to the pancreas, and it runs upwards and forward to pass between the two layers of the transverse mesocolon, and it divides into the right and left branches. So you can see the division of the right and left branches. This is the right branch and the left branch. The right branch anastomose with the ascending branch of the right colic artery below. This is the third division of the superior mesenteric artery, that is the right colic artery. So the right branch of the middle colic artery anastomose with the ascending branch of the right colic artery, and the left branch anastomose with the ascending branch of the left colic artery, that is a branch of the inferior mesenteric artery. For a video on the inferior mesenteric artery, you can click on the I button. So this is about the middle colic artery, that is the second branch of the superior mesenteric artery. It arises below to the pancreas and it divides into the right and left branches. The right branch anastomose with the ascending branch of the right colic artery, that is here, and the left branch anastomose with the ascending branch of the left colic artery, that means here, and this left colic artery is the branch of the inferior mesenteric artery. Now coming to the third branch, that is the right colic artery. This is the third branch, that is the right colic artery. It arises from the right side and it divides into the ascending and descending branches. The ascending branch anastomose with the right branch of the middle colic artery, and the descending branch anastomose with the ascending branch of the ileocolic artery. So this is the fourth branch, that is the ileocolic artery. The descending branch anastomose with the ascending branch of the ileocolic artery. In this anastomosis form the beginning of the marginal artery of the Drummond. So this is very important. This anastomosis between the descending branch of the right colic artery and the ascending branch of the ileocolic artery. This forms the beginning of the marginal artery of Drummond branch, and the fourth branch is the ileocolic artery. This is the ileocolic artery. It is the lowest branch arising from the right side and it runs downwards and to the right, and it divides into the ascending and the descending branches. As we already know, the ascending branch anastomose with the descending branch of the right colic artery, and the descending branch or the inferior branch anastomose with the terminal end of the superior mesenteric artery. So this is the anastomosis with the terminal end of the superior mesenteric artery, and the ileocolic artery also gives three branches. Those are the anterior and posterior cecal arteries. So this is the descending branch of the ileocolic artery, and it also gives rise to three arteries, gives rise to anterior and posterior cecal arteries. That means they supply to the cecum. The appendicular artery, that means they supply the appendix, and the ileal branch to the terminal part of the ileum. As its location is nearer to the cecum, appendix and the ileum, this descending branch of the ileocolic artery gives an anterior and posterior cecal artery, an appendicular artery for the appendix, and an ileal branch for the terminal part of the ileum. And now coming to the last branch, that is the jejunal or ileal branch. These branches are the jejunal and ileal branches, and these branches are in about 12 to 15 in number, and they arise from the convex left side of the superior mesenteric artery. They pass between the two layers of the mesentery of the small intestine. So they pass between the mesentery, and their branches anastomose with each other to form a series of arterial arcades. So these arterial arcades form further branches, and from there the second, third, fourth and even fifth arterial arcades are formed. And remember, the number of these arcades are increased from the part of the jejunum to the ileum, and the straight branches of these arterial arcades are called as the vasa recta. You should remember it. And these vasa recta, those are arised from these arcades, pass on to either side of the small intestine, and they supply the small intestine. And remember, these vasa recta are very much longer and less in number in the jejunum while compared to the ileum. So remember, the whole small intestine proper, that is the jejunum and the ileum, are supplied by the jejunal and ileal branches of the superior mesenteric artery, but whereas the terminal part of the ileum is supplied by the ileocholic artery. And now let's talk about the distribution of the superior mesenteric artery. The superior mesenteric artery is the artery of the midgut, and hence it supplies all the derivatives of the midgut, lower half of the duodenum, that is by the inferior pancreaticoduodenal artery. And this lower half means below to the opening of the hepatopancreatic duct, the jejunum, the ileum, cecum, appendix, the ascending colon, right 2/3 of the transverse colon, and the lower half of the head of the pancreas. So these are the derivatives of the midgut, and these derivatives of the midgut are supplied by the superior mesenteric artery. So guys, this is all about the superior mesenteric artery. If you like my video, do subscribe to my channel. In this video, let's learn about the superior and inferior mesenteric veins. The first one is the superior mesenteric vein. The superior mesenteric vein is the major tributary of the portal vein. It is formed in the right iliac fossa by the union of the small veins that are emerged from the ileocecal region. So this is the superior mesenteric vein. These are the small jejunal and ileal veins. So it is formed in the right iliac fossa by the union of the small veins. Those are emerged from the ileocecal region. It runs upwards that accompanies the superior mesenteric artery. For a video on superior mesenteric artery, you can click on the I button. And this vein lies at the right side of the artery. This superior mesenteric vein terminates behind the neck of the pancreas by joining into the splenic vein to form the portal vein. This is the portal vein, and this is the splenic vein. Now let's talk about the tributaries of the superior mesenteric vein. The main tributaries are by the veins that correspond to the branches of the superior mesenteric artery. So these all are the branches of the veins. Those accompany or those correspond to the superior mesenteric artery. The right gastroepiploic vein. As the name indicates, the gastroepiploic, the inferior pancreaticoduodenal vein that corresponds to the inferior pancreaticoduodenal artery, a branch of the superior mesenteric artery. So this is the inferior pancreaticoduodenal vein. These are the tributaries of the superior mesenteric vein. Superior mesenteric vein drains the venous blood from the small intestine, which is rich in nutrients, and the large intestine up to the junction of proximal 2/3 and distal 1/3 of the transverse colon. The stomach and also the pancreas. So remember, the superior mesenteric vein drains the venous blood from small intestine, large intestine, that is up to the junction of the proximal 2/3 and the distal 1/3 of the transverse colon, the stomach and the pancreas. So the branches of the superior mesenteric vein, this is the inferior pancreaticoduodenal vein, the right gastroepiploic vein, this is the middle colic vein, the right colic, the ileocholic, and these are the jejunal and ileal veins. In these branches this corresponds to the branches of the superior mesenteric artery. And now let's talk about the inferior mesenteric vein. The inferior mesenteric vein is the upward continuation of the superior rectal vein. So in this diagram, this is the inferior mesenteric vein and it is the upward continuation of the superior rectal vein. So this is the superior rectal vein. This inferior mesenteric vein ascends behind the peritoneum, that is lateral to the inferior mesenteric artery, and then it passes lateral to the duodenojejunal flexure, and as it lies on the left side, it passes anterior to the left renal vein to terminate by joining the splenic vein behind to the pancreas. So remember, it passes laterally to the duodenojejunal flexure and anteriorly to the left renal vein, and finally it drains into the splenic vein. You can see the draining of inferior mesenteric vein here. It may sometimes deviate and drain into the superior mesenteric vein or its junction within the splenic vein. This is the junction and this is the superior mesenteric vein. And the tributaries of the inferior mesenteric vein corresponds to the inferior mesenteric artery. This is the left colic vein and these are the sigmoidal veins. And you can remember easily, as the superior mesenteric vein drains the right side, it has the right colic artery and the ileocolic, the middle colic, and the left colic artery is a branch of the inferior mesenteric vein. So you can see it here. So guys, this is all about the superior and inferior mesenteric veins. If you like this video, do subscribe to my channel.